chat, we are going to do the history of cats, God's fluffy moida machines. Shall we learn about the history of the furry feline? You know, learn about where my own personal mouse hunter came from and her ancestral history. Huh? Tanashi, only the stage ones, not the cinematic ones. For the love of all that is holy, not the cinematic ones. I don't know if they killed just for fun, Kanito. Like, there is I'm not gonna get into that. I will ramble if I get into that. Let us look at the history of my beloved scouts. Ancient family tree.
Mesopotamia, 9,500 years ago. The wild beast creeps into the village, lithe body slipping through the pooled shadows in search of prey. It slips under a gap in a building wall and smells the air. Grain and basketry, cut wood, human smells. Ooh, and something else.
Okay.
A sharp, musky tang of fur and feces. It's there, at the side of the basket, gnawing a hole in the reedwork. The predator watches as its prey freezes, realizing it's not alone.
Now this sounds familiar to me.
Slamming claws down on the creature to pin it, while its jaws clamp the wriggling form. But in the commotion, a field tool topples and clangs. Suddenly, a light. The beast now freezes. In ambushing, it has itself been ambushed. At the door of the barn, approaches a human. But this giant
big eyes
makes no move to pounce on the beast. Instead, it places a piece of meat on the floor. And that, Zoe, is how you historically came to live inside.
Nice.
As we kick off this historical tale, I wanted to let you know that our friends over at Hit Point Press are about to kick off their new Kickstarter for Humblewood Beyond the Canopy. Cat lovers unite! Cats are everywhere. And I mean, like, everywhere, and that is the way I like it. Seriously, thank you, patrons, for voting for this series. I've wanted to do this for so long. They're one of the most popular pets on Earth, kept on every continent except Antarctica. And I'm at least 90% sure that one of those research vessels down there does have a ship's cat. But, and I want to be careful how exactly I say this, cats are also weird. Heck yeah. Domestic cats, or Felis catus, evolved from the African wildcat, Felis sylvestris libica, making them literally the descendants of those cats that helped police grain stores in ancient Mesopotamia. So yeah, Zoe,
which
your
we
genes
kind of know.
go way back. In fact, in their millennia of interacting with humans, cats have been seen as everything from wild animals to barnyard helpers to companions, vermin, gods, and of course, tools of Satan.
Okay. This one I agree with, as evidenced by the fact that my cat has caught and killed 2 mice in 24 hours. Thank you, Scout. I love you. But the spawn of Satan? Yeah, I kind of gotta also agree with that one. Unfortunately. Dude, she can sometimes absolutely be the fucking spawn of Satan, okay? And she's an orange cat, so it's like, well, Popshot, mine's an orange cat. Thank you, Doc.
Satan. Yeah, remember how I said you were all, like, kind of weird? Well, what I more meant was cats are different from dogs. Shocking statement, I know. But what makes them so different is that cats are basically just cats and always have been. What I mean is, anatomically, they're still extremely similar to the wild cats from which they split, and their anatomy isn't as mutable through breeding as that of a dog. With a dog, you can take a wolf and basically make it anything from a Chihuahua to a Chinese Crested to a Saint Bernard, fundamentally changing their size, length, types of coat, and face shape.
True, cats are generally all the same.
Some of those traits. But cats, by contrast, are extremely difficult to selectively breed. And all the changes are essentially cosmetic. If 2 cats of different breeds get together, generally they just make like a normal cat. Their genetics sort of reverting to the standard. And importantly, that standard, run-of-the-mill cat, has essentially been unchanged since it was domesticated 9,500 years ago. That's
Eh,
right, Zoe. You are pretty much the same as
that,
all of
that,
your ancestors, stretching back to the dawn of agriculture. And that's really unusual. It's like you and sharks, buddy. God's
yeah,
perfect
kind
immutable
of.
murder machines. Also, you're
Okay, the comparisons to sharks is not quite accurate. Cats have basically been unevolved for about 9,000 years. Sharks have not evolved in like a fucking millennia. Okay? Sharks were around back during the age of the dinosaurs. So it's, kind of like alligators too. Sharks and dinosaurs, sorry, I meant sharks and crocodiles. Sorry about that. So yeah, sharks and crocodiles, fundamentally speaking, are living dinosaurs. Probably more so the crocodiles than the sharks, but the sharks absolutely were around during the times of the dinosaurs. They were just kind of like bigger. Okay, Falcon, have a good night. Whereas cats have only been around for 9,000 years. So, not quite the same. They do have a very long and storied history that they have basically been unchanged from when they were in Mesopotamia 9,000 years ago. Sharks have changed in that they have grown smaller, V-Dog. I think sharks during the Cretaceous period, maybe the Jurassic period, or they were like bigger. That's where you get the megalodon from. So sharks have shrunk down, but anatomically speaking, they are about the same as the megalodon, just shrunk. It's like basically if you take if you took a Photoshop tool to a Photoshop scaling tool on a megalodon and shrunk it down a little bit, you get modern day sharks. So that's kind of where you're looking at. Crocodiles are another one that basically they've been around since the fucking dinosaur. It is like crocodiles basically are considered living dinosaurs, effectively speaking. Obviously, they are not exactly like dinosaurs, but basically their species has been in existence since like the dinosaurs as a shark. Cats not so much. But they still 9,000-year-old history is not anything to shake a stick at. That was me trying to do Scott's shaking a stick at something. Did it work?
one of the few domesticated species that can successfully become feral again, something you remind me of all the time. Cats can essentially switch domestication on and off, which is very rare. Pigs being the only other domesticated animal we know that can do that, and we already did 2 episodes about how useful and destructive they can be.
Oh.
So with all of that in mind, that is why we are doing things a little bit differently in this series. See, since there are no main characters in this historical tale, and Zoe, since you're basically the same as cats throughout time, we wanted to make you the main character. And with the powers of science and mostly animation, we're going to zap you back in time to relive pivotal moments of your species' history. Starting with the hunt. Long ago, cats were wild. The African wildcat specifically. Your ancestors, Zoe, spent their life stalking small prey, like birds, lizards, and rodents, in North Africa and the Middle East. Now, life was hard, but a well-adapted organism sometimes makes hard things look quite easy. And luckily, cats are ideally suited for their role in the food chain. They're excellent ambush predators and good at hiding from larger animals. Their supple bodies can worm into small places to escape or find food.
Supple bodies? No, cats are liquid. Okay, let us not fuck with this. Anybody who has ever met or owns a cat knows. Cats are liquid. Supple is too tiny of a word to describe that which is the cat. Okay, when a cat can literally go underneath the small crease of the bathroom door and fit its entire fucking body through it just so it can bother you while you're on the toilet, that's not supple. That is T1000 levels of liquidification. Okay?
While claws and excellent jumping and climbing skills can get them out of danger quick. They also naturally bury and hide their waste as to not attract predators. But here in Mesopotamia, they found the ideal hunting ground: village grain stores. Truly like a lion stalks a watering hole, wildcats realized they could
A
return
cat
to these
is
same
just a weighted
locations.
blanket that bites you.
Well, yours might be Bobcat. My cat doesn't really cuddle with me when I sleep. I wish she would, but she doesn't.
Night after night, and regularly find rodents attracted by the
Oh,
baskets
Jack.
of grain.
Oh,
and
yes.
the humans nearby decided to
I
just
certainly can
let
be.
them. Because cats were not a source of food for humans, they didn't attack you unless you tried to pick them up, and they didn't infect the village with any diseases. So, why not just let them take care of the rat problem? In fact, it's possible that early agriculturalists even left food out to attract the cats once they'd been seen, to keep the cats coming back to help out. Due to this, it's sometimes said that cats domesticated themselves. Come on, everyone knows a cat that just sort of showed up and moved into a place, right? But that's only part of the
Okay, would you classify that as domestication or eminent domain? Not quite sure the cats necessarily facilitated self-domestication, or they basically said, yeah, this is my house now, I'm just allowing you to reside here. Puny human.
the story. Because you see, cats were far from the first small animals humans had domesticated for non-food uses like hunting or companionship. In fact, they were a relative newcomer. While cats were domesticated around
I should get out of the way of the
9,500
cat.
years ago, dogs may have been domesticated up to 30,000 years ago, and animals like boar, sheep, goats, and extinct types of cattle were domesticated around 11,000 years ago. Heck, we even have a 13,000-year-old burial of a fox and a human with both skeletons coated in red ochre and later moved, suggesting that we may have domesticated foxes before cats. So all that's to say,
now that's interesting. That is interesting that humans may have domesticated foxes. Yeah, Jameson, I'm kind of sad that we lost that because I like foxes. You know, foxes are basically dogs running on cat software. Yeah, damn it, ancient humans, how could you fuck this up? You had domestic foxes, and you fucked it up.
humans had a lot of experience at this point with how to domesticate wild animals, and they likely started using the same techniques on cats. They would have favored felines that were friendly and non-aggressive to people, but that also were good hunters. And they probably focused their attention on those which were best at communicating with humans, via body language or vocalizations like meows, wails, grunts, and purrs. In fact, one reason cats became as popular as they did, one of the main reasons we like them now, is that they're unusually good at telling us what they want. Very loudly, often at 4 a.m. Ask me how I know. Though it should be noted that one of the chief ways of domesticating wild animals in the ancient world was to separate them from their mothers and raise them in human environments so their behavior was shaped to please humans. That really is what domestication actually entails, because a wild animal that learns to live with humans is tame, while one that is born into human care is domesticated. So, while it's true that cats to some extent did domesticate themselves, it really was probably more of a push-pull between humans and cats. And due to all of that, they were soon about to be considered a lot more than bouncers at the local rodent nightclub, for they were increasingly becoming companions to humans. Again, while they've always been semi-wild, cats are pretty ideally suited to life with humans. They're soft, affectionate, and often like to be touched. They emit calming noises when they're happy, and can't injure you too badly even if things go wrong. They're also great at getting out of
I would take issue with that last part. I have heard about people that get royally fucked up by a pissed off or scared cat. Like I've heard stories about people that that have had cats kind of fucking scalp them because they were either scared or the cat just flat out went on an attack. Yeah, they can absolutely fuck you up. Absolutely. It's yeah, so let us disagree on that particular little point. Shall we?
Out of the way when needed, so they work well in human households, even if there are things like cooking fires. And crucially, they don't stink. They bathe themselves regularly and bury or otherwise hide their waste. And we actually know they were companion animals rather than strictly helper animals because of analysis on their bones. There are cat skeletons with worn down teeth, suggesting they lived longer than they usually would in the wild, and testing of their bones shows us that they were consuming a significant amount of human food. Just treats for days, and they deserved them. Then there are the burials, with cats either specifically interred in a way humans did not treat domesticated livestock, or even interred with people. The most interesting of these is a 9,500-year-old burial site discovered in Cyprus, where a man was found next to a young African wildcat which had been killed and buried with him. Oh, Zozo, don't worry, I would never do that to you. Whoa, okay there, judgmental. I'll have you know that my health is fine, but also, yes, thank you for noticing. Anyway, that tells us two things. First, that this wildcat was a tame companion animal. And second, that the cat had traveled there by ship. How do we know that? Well, because Cyprus is an island where cats weren't native, and to get there would have meant the cat had to undergo a sea voyage. It's hard to imagine that happening with the cat hissing and spitting all over the place. So
thank you for the follow.
Considered precious enough to warrant taking even to the afterlife, and tame enough to not cut everyone to ribbons. Anyway, this trip to Cyprus seems to have been part of a larger effort to settle domesticated animals on the island, meaning that in addition to companions, mouse-hunting cats may have even been seen as one of the essential elements of agriculture, which is probably why the Egyptians loved them so much. Ancient Egypt famously adored cats, with households commonly keeping them as pets and venerating them as representatives of the gods that protected the household. They killed snakes and scorpions trying to get into the house. They chased birds out of the green fields. And, of course, they kept killing rats and mice. Cats of pharaohs were symbolic protectors of the royals, and were even known to eat from plates at the table, like people, while adorned.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, cats in ancient Egypt were viewed as like guardians of the underworld and I think like emissaries of who was it? Bast? I want to say I want to say that they were emissaries of Bast. Not Anubis. Anubis was dogs. I believe Anubis was a dog god. Bastet, Bast, I think, was the Bast and Sekhmet. I think those are the ones I'm thinking. Those were the cat gods. Like, ancient Egypt had both cat gods and dog gods, effectively speaking. Yeah, I appreciate Anubis was like a jackal, but jackal is a canine. And so, yeah, like, they were not only, like, guardians of the underworld, but they were also, I believe, like, emissaries of the gods in that respect. So it's not like, okay, you guys ever seen The Mummy? And ever seen The Mummy? One big plot point when Imhotep comes back is he's scared of what's her name? I forget the character's name. Evelyn. He's scared of Evelyn's cat. Like, if he sees Evelyn's cat just, like, walk on a piano, flips the fuck out, and nopes right out of there, because cats are viewed as guardians of the underworld. So, yeah, they were highly venerated in ancient Egypt.
In gold and jewels. Aw, you like all that adoration, don't you, Zoe? Oh, well, get ready, because it gets better. In some copies of the Egyptian Book
Well,
of the
it
Dead,
was
the
Evie
sun
Grey
god
Matter.
Ra
Evie
is
was her
shown
nickname.
as a cat, and several prominent gods and goddesses had heads of a leopard, a cheetah, and in the case of the goddess Bastet, a lioness, at least at first. See, Bastet was a protective goddess, guarding against disease and evil spirits, as well as guarding the pharaohs and the sun god Ra. And that's how she stayed for about 2,000 years, until around 945 BCE or so, when she transitioned from being a lioness to having the head of a domestic cat. Now, this may have been a sort of melding with cat-headed protective amulets, which were popular at the time, but it also somewhat softened Bastet. She became a little more domestic and personable, becoming more associated with pregnancy, motherhood, and fertility. Oh, and just to be clear, Bastet was massively popular. Not only did she become an extremely common god from this period until the Roman conquest, she actually had a whole city, Bubastis, named after her as the center of her cult. And during her festival, things got a bit wild. Now, we know about that from no less a source than Herodotus, who claimed that each year 700,000 men and women flooded the city in a day of drunkenness and dancing, where children were banned because, the adults were busy. It appears that Bastet worshippers may have included a little bit of naughty stuff, possibly inspired by how female cats in heat will mate with multiple males. And though Herodotus is kind of, let's just say, a...
Wait. Oh my god! So we go from talking about a public orgy. God damn it, I'm in. To Herodotus being such a liar. Do you think the Joker too thing? Oh my god.
Glorious exaggerator.
That's good.
Some other sources do refer to this as the, quote, festival of drunkenness. But with all of that said, Zoe, just know that the Egyptians, through and through, loved their cats. Just loved them. Which is probably why they mummified them so much. It's true. We've found tens of thousands of mummified cats. These range from house cats who'd died, were mummified.
But, again, this love... I think this quote-unquote love, I think, stems from religion.
So, does that mean Bastet is associated with Egyptian Meow de Gras?
Oh my god, okay, tornado? You're actually probably more on the nose than you may realize. Honestly? That's actually pretty fucking accurate. I'm actually upset that I didn't think of that part. I didn't think of that. You were on it. You were fucking on it. He's an asshole, but he's not wrong. Okay? Kirby. Oh, Kirby. Oh. Thank you, Kirby.
And delivered to temples in Bubastis, to royal cats that had sculpted leather ears and semi-precious stones for eyes resting in carved stone sarcophagi. Then, of course, there were the cats killed as offerings, which became so common in Ptolemaic Egypt that an entire industry arose to specifically breed cats for sacrifice, mummify them, and present them to temples as offerings. They were often strangled or had their necks broken, were stuffed with dry sand and earth, then wrapped up before...
Oh, God!
You okay there, bud?
No!
Yeah, I can see how ancient Egypt kind of seems like a mixed bag now. But you'll be happy to know that after the Roman conquest, that sort of thing pretty much got shut down. Bastet got merged with Isis, who the Romans enthusiastically adopted along with cats. Though, swinging that pendulum back again, to be fair, cats were not as well regarded in Rome as they were in Egypt. In fact, at one point, a Roman soldier triggered a diplomatic incident by killing a cat, causing an Egyptian crowd to beat him to death. But while they were not as favored in Roman territory, we do know that the Romans were responsible for spreading domestic cats across the imperial territory and into Europe. Because by about 100 AD...
Spreading democracy across Europe. See, I can do puns too.
Domestic cats were in Britain. And we know that due to one having walked across
I
a
regret
ceramic
nothing.
roof tile while it was drying, preserving its footprints there. Domestic cats had gone global and carried some of their godlike senses with them. For Isis was a goddess of knowledge and magic, and as they spread, cats would themselves be increasingly associated with mysticism, the occult, and witchcraft. So, join us next time, where Zoe here travels back to the Middle Ages, when cats were, let's just say getting hot under the collar. Oh, don't worry, bud. That's all in the past. I mean, let's focus on some positivity in the feline future, okay? For instance, our friends over at Hit Point Press have actually added cats as playable species to their new world book, Humblewood Beyond the Canopy. Now, listen, extra historians, I'm not sure if you're aware of this by now, but there are two things that I interact with the most in this world. One is tabletop RPGs, and the other one is this floofball right here. So this kind of includes both of those, and I'm super excited to tell you about it. Humblewood Beyond the Canopy is a sequel to the award-winning Humblewood adventure for D&D 5e that I've been waiting for forever now, and it's hitting Kickstarter in just a few weeks. This gorgeous new standalone book takes your RPG out of the woods to discover the globe-trotting adventures across the continent of Weston. And it is just bursting at the seams with lore and locations you can just dive into. You can uncover frozen mysteries in the Crystal Expanse, ride the mighty Gargaths across the plains of Fernveld,
Victor.
find a warm welcome in Warrens away from the tempest that shakes Stormcrag, and feel the pulse of nature in the verdant Tangle Wilds. And you get to explore it all as even more of your favorite creatures with brand new playable animal and bird ancestries inspired by parrots, geckos, badgers, and yes, of course, cats! Not to mention, this over 250-page tome includes tons of new backgrounds, classes,
Xanax, me too.
Spells,
I miss my black cat,
and even
too.
a complete campaign, all beautifully illustrated by incredibly talented human artists, aka no AI was using this damn thing, which you'll love to see. I have been a huge fan of Humblewood since the first book here, and I've played a bunch of games in it. I love it so much. It's so much fun, and I cannot wait to see what this new book brings to the Humblewood table. So if this sounds as up your alley as it is mine, definitely head to their Kickstarter page by clicking right here or visiting the link in the description, then sign up to be notified when the campaign goes live on April 8th. That way you'll have the best chance to snag all of these sweet early bird specials, no pun intended, before they are gone. Just do not take mine. I'm calling dibs on at least one of those packages. Once again, to take your gaming table beyond the canopy with Humblewood, click here. And then once you've rolled up your first little creature, why not check out our next video here? Okay, Zoe, I'm gonna say that Angela Valenciana, Arclight Games, Dominic Valenciana, Hunter Z, Joseph Blame, Kuya Koi, Lotus Wolf, and Zeliad's Architectures are the best legendary patrons. Relax!
So cute. But yeah, they did 100% become associated with evil. Oh, dragon, is it? Oh, that's so wonderful. That is so wonderful. Are you gonna keep it? Are you gonna adopt it, or are you gonna give it up to a shelter? Oh, you found him a home? Oh, that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. I am. Yeah, interesting and sad fact about cats, chat. The vast majority, if not all, animal shelters, at least in North America, I don't know about outside of North America, but the majority of animal shelters will not adopt out any black cats around Halloween. They will not do it because of the whole, people will, deliberately kill black cats on Halloween for, ritual, crazy-ass rituals or something like that. So, if you want to adopt a black cat, don't try to do it around Halloween because the shelter absolutely will not adopt out any black. I'm not sure if it extends for the entire month of October, but at the very least, it's for the couple of weeks prior to Halloween. You will not be able to adopt a black cat because people are sick bastards, honestly. So, fun and unfortunately sad fact for you on that one.